Namo Burāye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Buddhaya Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Kind Lai Nguyện diện thôi coi đẹp rồi coi số sở tuần địa chỗ địa trời địa giáo mù nguyện diện lô sa Xie dan jie bao mian de xie shuang de ye na ba xie jie la ma so xie jie chen ge zha le lo de yan to ge ya za ya na le ge yo le xie so 摩耶，六我耶耶。 王不长别样，别我马六人在上别样的。高见开别若见中开吧，若要上要长别，上要老要少往要的。没有得了是，只有没有见没有王不长没有样。天魔马六人在上月亮大，看见天表，若见上马。若上长别，小老少往的，帮的早别，老马的不接。所见我了，别没的说了，高的前表，国内前所的。我所托也，我多在多所，大的早了，老马人不些。大所因个人，别没有的说了，高见前表，国内前说。上当天魔，我中在多有所，安的早了，老马人不切。大所因个别没的说了，高见前表，国内前。常若念阿罗的 ma sama je me she ra ma ro je ma ye ma ga na ye wo ye so zo ya ra ye je je ye wa te zo ya yom la chang je lo te yo no ga de ga de samanga monde zo te yo no ga de ma de samanga monde zo te yo no de samanga monde zo gere don da ja lo je wa da me ne de ge don de wa chen ba lu je be don zo yo ne da shi te le yo so xin be ye yo je me do da ya re ya ra ya le je ye de ye bo de so ye je do ne Sanje shelo soje jonan la jan jon ban don la de ja so ye la ge shi yuan je be so na do la ben je sanje ro la la sho sanje shelo soje jonan la jan jon ban don la de ja so ye la ge shi je be so na Drola Benja Sanje Drola Sho Sanje Shela Zoye Jonam Lo Janjo Balo Nade Ye Ali Chujuan Ye Sonam Ye Dharma Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen 심지어 당시에도 도전하는 야도 도서에 고마를 보시는 게 도발샤 대시의 담에 쉬어서냐 꿈을 상주스 제마스 제다는 세바시스. Let me remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate bodhicitta motivation or the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived altruistic bodhicitta motivation, we should participate in this precious Bodhisattva discourse on the perfection of enthusiasm or joyful effort. Da shindunde tere karsa lelo gunzi da lelo nimik zu hiezani da lelo poe ene tavshewa hotinema sharis. We already talked about what is laziness. We defined it. I explained it to you. We also talked about the faults of laziness, what's wrong with laziness, in other words. And so now we're going to continue to talk about how to eliminate or how to counteract laziness. In other words, we're going to talk about the ways or the means or antidotes by which we can deal with laziness. Sunday de nyule le lo bon lo ni ber shiwe be tu pe dong je wa ne nya dong re da so ja no de zu ne je ja ni ja ba mo ba na je shi ba da le lo lo so bi nyo mo ba ja dong zhou na show you good on de je ne ri du je tu Kevanya Besevanya Zonjoro, Jeve Jorane, Shonwe Jeve Joro, Seva Jornane, Sheda Shinji, Kar Shiji Karni. Suma Jeva Dovine, Kavade Tabur, Jeva Yama, Chedeta Dunga Simje, Jeve Misha Sama, Deve Misha Sam, Deve Je, Pinche. Nibachiwale ma deve zu deve tinga yine shiya tinga yine shiba shi chiyu jili lo de me don wara shi kara bebe shola wa tadani nyudi beko shi rang kuwa wo wata de kara dili hiwal da sashi de sum dili nyimbo kunji dila so de tela koa tele sozo nyimbo kunji dili Then call the George shed the medal to some days. Newly little bones, newly little some the newly medal gone in, said George Jenny. Cursa the newly little bones. More than ever cheer to them. So better what Japanese. Or the that is under the Newly lost at the Hachibo, the Paya de was there, what Tinia was the Carasina, and the drink the minute when never she now she me to some design, she had the journey. She then made a mentor, she made some of them, any of the Nizon, she was a jenny, in the tree she had some cover of the So the Jewish said me that to last Sunday. Newly little bond last. The tomato newly little said, Terras Gilang and Bush in Ledra, the Rohotis, Otila never cheered to bed the Japanese, or that the citizen Never share better Javanes. Neither Relasa Jana the journey. Javad Mobananje, Sevater, Little Las of the Numaba, say Javad Javi, Rananji, Shorshings, go the on the Shannon, Redinji, Re-Tiju, given them the Seven in the Joyous. Jerry journey, show me you, Super Shiva, Shiva journeys, Shida Shiji Kani, Suma Shiva the Joyous, Come the Tabu Young, Chiva Young, Chid the Tadun Sim Cheges, Mishebe Samti, Che Pinche, Giver Shiva, Le Mandipai, soon the thing in the Shiva Shady. Shishu Lilo on the Mundor. Sugar baby Shula Tadane, Yadan Yudu, be a good here, wrong the Kua, the wrong all the Kua said, Danaka. Their workers are newly little Yamas or did. She would be consumed with a permission there at the tip budget. And show me about Chesana and the Yawashima Karyomati or the Haku, the Hakona and the church in Greece. In the long direct nation, church in Greece or what I think Harrison newly little the currency of the this was the pen. Rizam shouldn't get the Nyabasa and the Riza shouldn't get the Ozuki. Rizas Janan Zina, Jasne, Siag, the Nisiaro, it in the Chogni. In the dinner jokes like that in Shugna, your Tarumara or this way. Corsa Tunes, Javana Javon, Seva Talas. But he did double the judges in the series, didn't he? That and he among his own rules, or what is your Corsa. So, but that little loss of the new Java Java, just that little chick towards that little memory, little chubby in a new mobile, what's the Ganges in a scene, any big kada. Joshua Chixida called sponsor the Shinji Kalmayu single race or this is it. Java Donna, you sure you joy the own shed in the do you give on your receiving in the Joyous, give a journey, show me the sugar Julius, give a just and a Jagada, be leg, only the son of the Kawajan army, give a just till soon in doing me 7 young race. So the thing that he did doing something in Tazakol, long door, some done in the round around the Kumatania, church race, or this was
We're on page 87 of this English translation of the guide by Stephen Batchelors. And Keshala's reading of the extensive commentary and explanation pertains to stanza 4 on top of page 87 and so on. So we already talked about different forms of laziness. There is a laziness called laziness of indolence, or I call it couch potato laziness, like, doing nothing, feeling like doing nothing. So when that kind of laziness, how should I say, arises, then we could become very careless. We don't care about doing anything at all. And so because of that laziness, it could, allow different afflictive emotions or delusions to arise in our mind. So then we get trapped by laziness and afflictive emotions. And so we create, a lot of, negativities. And so if we don't think about these things, then what is sure thing to happen is we will die. I mean, there's nothing mystery about that. And the death is not the end of everything, storyline, because something continues after we die. And so after death, we have to take rebirth, which is largely determined by our own karmic actions. And if we have created a lot of negativities, we are more likely to be reborn in more difficult situations we call bad migrations. There are more misery and suffering there. And so this is how the vicious cycle continues, and then we will die, and then we will be reborn again in difficult situations. And so in order to counteract the laziness of couch potato-ness, I created a word here. So we have to reflect on the suffering nature of samsara, because we are trapped in samsara. So we have to think about that. Our life is impermanent. And what is a sure thing to happen is, because we are already born, we will die. We will die. There is nothing mystery about it. But the mystery part for us is we don't know when. The time of death is uncertain. It could happen anytime. Okay? And so once we die, so we know that, we will be reborn. And what determines our rebirth, as I said earlier, our own karmic actions and conditioning afflictive emotions. So when we think about the suffering nature of samsara and where we might end up after our death in the bad migrations with untold suffering, then we started to develop, right, kind of a sense of fear. Shall we call it like positive sense of fear? Because we are not already there. So this sense of fear could help us, right? Okay, I don't want to be reborn there. So, I would like to conduct my life, meaningfully. So in other words, that we realize that we develop interest in Dharma, right? In the study and practice of Dharma. And not only we are interested in learning about Dharma, now we find a practice for ourselves. Our practice constitutes abandonment and adoption or cultivation. We realize, okay, the negativities should not be done. And the positive actions is something we should adopt and cultivate, because ultimately these karmic actions are going to bring forth their outcome or the results. And so in that way, we can transform ourselves, isn't it? So we don't allow the laziness of indolence or feeling like doing nothing, couch potato-ness, to overwhelm us and to dictate our life. So in other words, what Geshe explains is this: in order to counteract that form of laziness, we want to think about, death and dying, right, as impermanence. As I said the other day, we are not necessarily talking about subtle impermanence, momentary disintegrations. We said death, which we can all relate to, right? Everybody will die. And so death is not the end of the storyline there, but we all don't know when we are going to die. So when we reflect on these matters, then we develop this sense of urgency that I really need to do something before, the Lord of Death or Yama takes me away, because then I have no control over my life. And so this is how it can help us to counteract, our laziness. So a number of examples are given in the textbook. Let me read the first stanza. It says, and meshed in the snare of disturbing conceptions, that's delusion, I have entered the trap of birth. Why am I still not aware that I live in the mouth of the Lord of Death? We might feel free right now, but it's like we are really living in the open mouth of the Lord of Death, Yama. Yama can close the mouth anytime. So that would be called death. So we are just like, innocent animals got trapped in the traps of the hunters. Once you are trapped there, then you're sure to die, or just like we are those like wiggling fish trapped on the hook of the fisherman. What is waiting now is the death. So when we think about these examples that can help us to understand and reflect on the fact of our life. Death is certain, time of death is uncertain. When we die, we will have to be reborn, and we don't want to experience more suffering than what we already do. So therefore means wake up, take the charge of your life and take interest in Dharma, feel the sense of urgency to put Dharma into practice. Yes.
Yeah. Young Chida Kanija, Jiu to Mangarson, Chirvadam, Chijun Georgia, Chida Tadun, Mrs. Association, Xie said, Shogo. So this is a bit Shogo, Steve. Did that Meta say the day, Meta was recorded out, Chida Meta was the Muslim show to or Meta. She knew that much in the Karzana, this way. Shida Kanangan is any Peju Moya, Jama, she was the Dorjee, Timadona, Tadangama, Jenny, Kajimashi with the Tonga, you know, the Jama, this is Shazam, not be a shen, some of the shen, young, to get the Uzum Tonga, that and that be today, Temami, the Kare, so this is this Karza, to Mangarson, Chubatangsa. Many Mambo Shizaris, and the other Shijan, Shigris. It didn't be told to let Dado be in the Shamada Made the Karinas. What is the order? Shejang Shogo, Shoshibi de Shosimu, whatever, all the teams that Kursa. Shua Meda, somebody said, or Shua Meda, somebody to Jidata, not the Shua Meda said it wasn't to Harry, or did it, didn't need the end of Shane. And you must share some with the Shah, some of the conditions, Tedum saying that she taught you, and the Jason design any kind of shivering, he was your estimate, and then I'm that caught on that get it. Kazakaji Gamo Jenny, Tadamayo, Dia, the Tonga, what did you have to us? She did me in the you did the that's a woman of that guess and here I met touch you there. What the and those in Tadohamo and Karina, some shit, and did a ya Kaza, young and some Greece. Take changes on the Pento Marva, young Jiver Shigores, so this is what that.
So as Geshe read from the commentary, so basically, as I said last week, we are basically involved in this kind of personal reflection, exhorting ourselves, right, to engage in Dharma. Nobody is telling us this, right? We are telling ourselves, what we must do and need to do. So death is something that we, not a concealed phenomenon, not a profoundly hidden phenomenon. It's something we all witness, isn't it? We can visually and perceptually witness death. We have done many times, isn't it? So, we really don't need to reason to prove that is going to happen. I mean, that is just what we observe. And if we still want to how to say, tell ourselves this is a sure thing to happen, then we can say that in the past, many have been born and many died. We don't have one example of a sentient being who we say like, he was born and he's still living here, didn't die. But that means everybody's dying. And then in the future, same. Beings will be born, then beings will die. Once you're born, you will die. That is the fact of life. Yeah. But then we cannot simply say, okay, that's the fact of life. But as we do this meditation on the death and dying, we have to develop this sense of certainty that death is going to happen. Not just like intellectual knowledge, right? Yeah, it's going to happen. But we want to feel it, right? Effective feeling that this is a sure thing to happen, so that it can jerk us, not just like a knowledge there. So So then we tell ourselves, now, given that death is a certain, many have died, many will die, I will die, then how come I live so mindlessly as if, death is not going to happen to me, So we ask that question to ourselves, right? How come this is the fact, undisputed fact? We really don't need reasons to establish death is certain, but still we give a lot of examples to say, many have died, we have seen many die, we will die. And still, why do we live so unmindfully? Why is that? Yes, this is the question we ask ourselves.
Yang Shartse sembe denu lisro, chewa semu tabu mese de dao di jegu namji xixin zhang. Top ji rabdi nene Joyous pangbe tsene ma lu sebar tong si xie deng si. 我的就的什么律之下就的什么叫什么律之下就的是我的什么律之下就的真的别么把就接着就那那有了我的什么就被苏州的咱们是这样被苏州有的话的这个律之下的你看了呀啥个没啥个是个我的现在现在 Because mese simulujis tere khanje mus be pendo de shen be pembe samay be shira ya go she any kale shen edi be source chen sadya do digs khading mizu wa de gezara simuluji sia de tere karza dese do karza Shartse se be denol sia de Shiva simu da mese da di jegu nang ji xixin zhang si. Shiva se de jegu nang xixin zhang si de da la su su liu de shima xiu de. Ka ji Shiva se de jian de su de Shiva de ko yu ge ma de ka zhen Shiva liao ma de tamo me de ma ba. Shiva de su de zhang de ko su jie jiao lo xixin de zhang de ri si. Top jiradi nene Joyous top se nene ka khanzor se ko ya top jo de hambe se de mali se var tongse ne da ses sagri se ses tip segri se tongse ne ga tong saya tongya se din se wa do dire khaji khada ya en ko na de be jorba ko ya phunzor ba ti del de en be go ko na le simo no shi go ko ne de yeng de za en khazor shiwa ma ra ji shi de za ene wa de simo zu khazor sago ra te na ji en yin ro yeng mal yu ya te la simo ga saya da bu de shen ta da ge si ge phunzor lu ne en yin zo ma lu ge she da tel sa sa shi wo re si o de so ra kharsa 到这个呢，你信心上是，信心上是有一个，希望是的有什么的样，可能是有个人是就要么这个有个些，到底这人主要是，那可能过到这呀，有的到那旁边说的，那钱那么严重嘛，就个人是，现在这样我些不些个人是，我的时候他是小没到三亚的个人是。 ene zhongzhu zamya toda rwa, shida da chiwa mada sanyi dida jida nipe nipa chiwa si shisham. Chiwa ibi gyuzen kare sina, ene kyani shidu mani ngamu nipe kiwa tonga mewa simsi jechewe, tada ene simsi mangbu dugu diye shikarawa, diye shangi chiye meza, ene kyani hiya ibi tajo da rwa. Ta chene ene kare mewa mendo shen, kiwa lingwa, tanga kiwa nga shida lingze tiye shida zan, tila kuwa sheda del dada sobda de sogena soju ra sheda dada sobda soya kabri del dada tejo milita kadri sogu ris o digal bazo dada be tom de jawo na ed mizo ma gesta na ed be shu shu sa shia ko ko yo ma ra wa ti me da en pendo maris dada sabza ju mo shem shene en shu shugul lelo ngewa tu samne en shul ya lelo on de masowa long do nyalne shita ba ji go res ko this is that.
So in Bodhisattva discourse, it is mentioned, as Geshe read the commentary and explained, that we must repeatedly reflect on and contemplate the certainty of death. It's not enough just to think about it once or twice or a few times. We have to, reflect on it over and again so that we really develop this awareness of death, the presence of death. Actually, the Lord of Death is always with us. It never leaves us, it's just that, so when conditions change everything and the time is, to go, then the Lord of Death shows up really. And that's how we die. But until then, metaphorically speaking, he's always with us. He's like our shadow and the body, they always go together, And so it is kind of a, how should I say, there's example given in the Bodhisattva discourse of something called a demon, a very skillful demon, and she would manifest herself as, all these beauties and everything, and then the men get so confused and like chase her and, and then, it looks like she's benefiting, kind of nice and kind of, attend to you and your needs, something like that. And then as you become very close, then she eat you up, And so just like that, the Lord of Death, it kind of allows us to get lost in the marvels of the samsara, samsaric pleasure, just like let us play a little bit. So we get so confused, like the demon showing up as a beauty, and then, the demon shows the reality, who she is, and eat you up. So like that, when the time comes, the Lord of Death shows who I am, and then, kills us or snatch our life away. But then that time, it's too late to do anything, isn't it? Because once we die, as we said, if the death is the end of everything, there's nothing to worry about. But that's not what it is. Something continues. We have to be reborn, and we are likely to be reborn in more difficult situations and where we don't want to be, isn't it? And so, which means that right now we are not there. It's very smart and intelligent to develop that awareness of death where we could be, and we can plan and do things differently, isn't it? So that we could save ourselves, if you will. So reflecting on death is a way to spark joy in our mind or heart in study and practice of Dharma, right? Because it's not too late right now. But if we think that, okay, I'll enjoy the samsaric pleasures, and then when it comes, then I will deal with it, it's too late, right? Once we die, we are already in bad migrations, and it's really hard to get out of that situation. It is already too late. Nothing much we can do about this. Right now, we have certain level of control of ourselves. We can plan, right? That's why it's very wise to think ahead of time and plan accordingly. So for that, as Geshe said before, we want to understand what laziness means, different forms of laziness, and what kind of problems laziness bring into our life, and how can we counteract them, and how can we reflect on death and impermanence of life so that it sparks joy in our mind to pursue the study and practice of Dharma.
Me yang shi ge de me bo tong me cemo ne yang nan ji kong nan ji de ye na ni che ba tie na zan de tie ni ye xin zhu xu me ba xi da zhong ding zhuo xie jia bi zhe ba chang ba dang wo tie xie de xie wa me da sam zui de de se me bo tong me cemo ne se de tong ma nin zu xie cemo ne se wo可能今天呢，你那念觉吧，你那念吧，天天上的，你那叫那兄弟，那其他看怕中国的这个，现在天天的，现在怕中国什么，他们这个行嘛是吧？天天真的你这，真的天天你这行，就是没有其他中的做事，是的，哦，你这叫从其他中就是没有现在。阿拉真虽然没关系，可是把这的大阿拉苏西亚叫了，不才谁着的阿拉苏亚，把罗里亚带的呢，讲下去要么说可以，所以罗里的现在才可能谁的个是吧？现在准许没有是这个，主要忙着是那边干没吧是，就是说其他抽的着，现下边这我是长把当时，我地方他的弄的。写下本之后，这毕竟这门中， Panen the way Javatinji, she don't know what he know you. Or said the Tabata in the base. Chewa meta gumnar with says he don't did it. Near the Jadin, so the Korepi, his alpha, Kasho, Jugdi was till Alasia to Parzan me or do worries. I said that the day Zata would say, she that he attached the day that this is the Tadabi, Tenjo Dika to Lane, ya, the dead Domo, Ramatoya, Tigalia, Shushin, and Beverly start on the Shaguta.
No, sir. So in the extensive commentary, they cited great Indian master Acharya Chandrakirti's commentary on the 400 stanzas of Aryadeva, Chatukshedar. And so in that commentary, it is mentioned that from the moment of our conception in the womb of the mother, from then onwards, we have been always, approaching or walking in the direction of the death. There never was a stop or a rest. This journey has no rest area here. You don't have to do anything. Even you're not doing anything, you're just still going, right? From the moment of the conception, every time passes, we are always going towards Lord of Death. There is no vacation or like a break time or a break station, restroom, rest area. Can I rest a little bit? No. You do something, you don't do something. This is the fact of the life, And so we know sure thing to happen as we are from the moment of the conception, sure thing to happen is we will die one day, isn't it? And so that seems to be like a very urgent matter. If you really think very seriously about it, it's a sure thing to happen. Nobody can stop this process of the journey. There is no vacation, break time, rest area, anything here. It's just, every moment we are passing towards that. But the lucky part right now is we have this fully endowed human form, precious human life. And all the qualities of this life allow us, so much freedom, right, to make our right kind of a choice and do the practice. So before we lose this fully endowed human form and kind of plunge into the mouth of the Lord of Yama, the dead, it's a wise thing to really acknowledge, right, the certainty of death and to develop that keen awareness of death, the presence of death every moment, so that we will bring joy in our action of doing the right thing and practice, So in that way, we'll be much better prepared, But if we live unmindfully and carelessly, then, before we realize it, the time is up, and then we will die. And it's too late at that time to do, anything.
Me by Tommy ceremony, Kona Jidin yen and Nature, dinner side in election in you. Or let him terribly, the terribly mirror. Tom 1 year the sugar no more than tennis on the Jidin did love the show in the Lanshima over. Shit out on the tenant your dress. Who did terrible because it on did it. Tom 1 year the sugar is on the zero, no more tenants on this. No money, tennis on the Jigden de Danis, Jigden de Dazita, Simjin Jigden, New Jig, the Jewish Simjin de Gesura. She did that, love the show in the Lamshema Goa. She that to dinner in your dress. What did I love the show in the citizens or that? She but she's a drawing. Tago Pen, she doesn't know Magor was Lamshema Magor said this or that. Gonzabena, such as Numa, some she live and Langa no correct of the Numa Jushon didn't John Joy.
No.
But today, and Norazan Yomar, she does the she does the Katuka, Tata, and Katu Doma, Langa Nornia, she not draw the Yomar, Katu, Dory, to do. She did the Jaya Yomaris. Mother Chidan such a pass Namjin lives to Malaya, Tuzo Jaya Trade. The Shida did Tuzo Jaya was called Lamza Nomers, Katakor Doma, Sayaka, don't go do much.
In the Jataka Mala, garland of birth stories of Buddha, is also mentioned that from the moment of our conception in the womb of the mother, our journey started there. The journey that really ends up, with a lot of death or the death. But this journey, nothing can change the course of this journey. Right? Once it began, it's constantly happening. As we said, there's no pause, there's no break time, nothing. It just keeps like ordinary journey. What Geshe Phuntsok is, let's say, usually it takes 3 days to get somewhere, right? And then you have a poor sense of direction, and then, I don't know, you went everywhere else, and it took you 1 week to get there. So it's kind of slowed down, right? It usually takes 3 days. Now you took 1 week to get there. But this journey has no detour and wrong direction here. It's just one direction. Just we keep going. There's no such thing like, sorry, I can live a little longer because I detour and went some other places. I'm coming here, a lot of death, so I'm late for my appointment. No, it's just, a straight just journey. There is no wrong way. There is no detouring here. And so that's why we have to be aware of that, and feel the presence of this journey and where it will end up. That's sure thing, death. So before that happens, we should take charge of our life and practice,
Dedanum Shidagi is Rimji is Sotoni Subashivaya, Chi Tadum Toma Jutam de Tetar Musum the Tome said Toma Churishaba Emu Wunja Ting Midajing Wunja Ting Midajing Mijoa Yola Mijo is Nyumle the ni la tembe siva soji only yeso la jungsi jang shua meba se sude de pa jang de chimugo ba shindu se ne ba khanye ba tene pena yunga shi de so doba shemba nang je se mai dang lu so Seja Mambo Rawa Shembu Soy Nang de Zuni. Suva the Rangi Desintelese, Naman Rimji Suva Tonya. Shima Shin the Shin of the Taduya, Trabada, parts of the Mebar, Sasawa, Shutuma Shivis, Shivam. Shivam Sudidi Nilo des Neva de Tedabus Dobatani Mailumo Shimata Shin Shendi Lusion Mojo in Shivos. What this was that the patient that this was that. Karza Tojo, the Gusu Noja di Metaji, Mijoa, the Tona, Mito, the Caresina. No lady, neither Dembes, Sevasoji, only Geshola. Shungsi Young, show me, Gesho, the Samusan, Madame Shady. Suited to see the Hulus in the other. Hajang the Hulus, Pagash in the Atiscoria. And John days, Chimugo never came, but Penna, Yunga, you did that, or did Duzaka, Yunga, you did, and Sheba, and Simjama, what they Ravana Contasha, and Kajing and Sales, Joe Tasha, my in the Kosuro, the Junoshi, Marita, Deja, or Teta Jibarisota, no Tongu Togula, Jibata Jam, Be Shevak the dog, Simje, Kaji, the Takaji 6 the Tasha of the year. That's what is Jibame, what the Jibaji is. Kaji, this was that. Mother blooded and Tudole kebar jeva se jera.
No.
Tudole kebar jeva se odi gede langdo de kebar jeva de tudole jeva se odi geze de
No.
odi suzer.
Stanza 5 reads, "Do I not see that he is systematically slaughtering my species? Whoever remains soundly asleep surely behaves like a buffalo with a butcher." So Geshe-la's reading of the commentary and explanation pertains to that particular stanza. So basically, we are engaged in what we call intra-personal communication. We are just talking to ourselves, right? Intra, not inter. Interpersonal communication. So we're telling ourselves this, that within my own families, the human family, so many have been taken away by the Lord of Death. Many died, and I have witnessed it, but I live like I'm not scared of death at all, and I don't show any empathy for all my family members who have already been taken up by the Lord of Death. And so I still love taking my nap, I still love being a lazy bum, don't feel like doing anything, rat race or anything like that, no interest. And I still keep my regular routine, eating, sleeping, whatever thoughts like that. How can I do this when I know the fact that many of my own family members of the human species have already been taken away, and I will surely be taken away one day. That is the fact, So we're basically informing ourselves. The way I live and behave is exactly like the buffaloes, and these other animals. How the butchers, they collect animals in one place, right? Then they take one or two away and then they kill them. But other buffaloes, it looks like, nothing is happening to them, right? They're still eating their grass, drinking their water, and maybe some of the buffaloes are taking their nap, snoring here. Although your own kind is being butchered right by. But the fact is that your time will come. There is no exception here, right? But the buffaloes don't feel that. They're not scared. They see it, but they don't know, So we are more or less like, living like that. Our own species are being taken away, killed, eaten up by the Lord of Death, metaphorically speaking. And we are in the line, actually, and we know for sure this will happen. But still, we go with the routine of life, eat, sleep, do stuff. And so how can this be? So we are telling ourselves, you see everything nakedly with your eyes, and you are in the line, this will happen, but still, how can you behave like a buffaloes, And so as Geshe said, in the Lamrim, Stages of Path treatises towards enlightenment, we said, this is a time for us to differentiate ourselves from lesser kind of animals, isn't it? The lesser kind of animals, they don't have the same ability, intellectual, like us human beings, isn't it? So, but we have the ability to be able to think positively, enhance positive state of mind, stop doing negativities, right? And we have such ability to understand this and to put that into action. But if we are not doing that, then what difference does it make to say that I have a fully endowed human form? How are we really different from other lesser kind of animals, who are also eating and sleeping and enjoying their life, So if that's all we do, we haven't really differentiated ourselves from other lesser kind of animals. Because Lamrim says, this is the time. You are at the juncture. Show that you're different. You are very fortunate ones. You have fully endowed human form. So how are you different? You're not doing anything different, right? So basically, we are having a dialogue with ourselves and tell our laziness, you're screwing my life like anything. Now I'm telling you, right? I'm waking up, right? So basically, we are addressing our laziness and try to develop the acute sense of death and impermanence.
Sube Gyeltsen, Tata Meba Shene, Luso Chobal Shene Su, So Chobala, Ringbe, Dovata Sheda Geni, Suber, Devi, Godek, the Megi, Tene, Rongi, Chudu, Nia Nation, the Sheda Chene, Maile Bashin, says about the gushing, says Sawala, gushing. Sibata de the Giloji, the Orlean, Shedder Gashi, see the Hameba, Sadung the Nil, Senes, Yumliki, look on the door, Hindu Lumba, she Lumba, so did that. Chesa Seja Sinje Mailas about the Ravats, so ye Dovat to be go Chagashini. This word, Dakarsa. Gotik the Seattle Bay, Gamda Roshen, Tundo Kawashia, Dasin, Nyoto to the Yomara, Chesape, Gando Kawashi, Dad of you took you or some work here. But did not see the till round till you Karavas. Said that Shida said you Kares. The you Tado the base says or the year gosh in till the Tatam does you, Meshiva didn't carry that. And since you to do this, you in fact, the Tudol begin because the Javin said, Ludireto Marva, so that she does it in your said to do the Kevin things. That the church, some to do the Kevin Power Mena and to do the Jiva. No, this is what.
Next stanza, number 6, reads, when having blocked off every escape route, the Lord of Death is looking for someone to kill. How can I enjoy sleeping? And how can I enjoy eating? And likewise, how can I enjoy sleep? Unquote. So as Geshe explained, that, as is stated in the Lamrim, tradition, we make quite a big deal about how fortunate we are to have a fully endowed human form, precious human life endowed with all the characteristics. And this is one of a kind, very different from other forms of life, sentient beings, isn't it? Especially lesser kind of animals. So when we have all these endowments, everything, if we behave like lesser kind of animals like the buffaloes, right, who are not scared, one of their kind is being killed here, they're still eating grass and, sleeping and drinking water. We are doing the same thing. Our own family members have already been taken away with a lot of death, and we are in the line, sure thing to happen, but still behave. So then how do we differentiate ourselves as fully endowed, human beings from that of lesser kind of animals who are deprived of such abilities, And so to continue that reflection, as Geshe explained, it's just like when an animal is taken to the butcher's shop where that animal will be killed, let's say buffalo, and there's no way to escape it for the animal, right? And so the butchers are ever ready. I mean, they kind of take joy in their profession, isn't it? I mean, they're not like, lazy, I don't feel like killing you today. Like they're sharpen the knife, everything. They're very smart. Okay, how am I going to kill you today, right? Very active and very vigilant, like that. So the Lord of Death is very vigilant and active, right? Very happy, waiting for us, do his job. And so still, why don't we feel it? And why we are still enjoying, sleeping and just eating and not finding a way to free ourselves from samsara, free ourselves from this cycle of, death and rebirth caused by contaminated karmic actions and afflicted emotions. We have the ability to do that. But why don't we do that? So we are telling ourselves, why we are behaving like buffaloes and this lesser kind of animals.
你把写的些解释的，你把写的些解释呢，因为你目的那个嘛，你目的嘛了，重复的学习啊，不给，让多那些系统认识，我的送下手着，
是，
可是用把的，你把这写的些写完大路不是，但是那写完没这把旁边人个，你们说的个性，啥的牛嘞，你来了，我就就那样。对，到完了呢，第二觉得一跑的这边是，你们写的老师过来，可是某的你了感觉吧，天天节目朝啊全部拍，天天到完你呢，这种就是，对了，他就是这样，忙的中，可是某的你了感觉吧，天天写了写的娘兄就是。第老呀，用说娘把就是一些人呢，脸大的，听你们就是，刚一毛的你了感觉吧，没些里了用的写上去，他那慢慢一遍，那你的，哪能那位才能吃完就是，刚一毛的你了感觉吧，等你给生大的，面对的，等你学了对吧？见面下，前行什么人了？这个就是康熙某的你那个就是我的了，某一去了200年，700用的过来用是娘，搞不就一门把着就是写作送说啥，他这里呀呢，你们现在6年没得这个的，因为旁边的地不是，他说过来，康熙你的某的搞啊，搞就是，康熙你要的不管搞6是的呀，就是我说。Tiene trago chamo perse de tisida ene temo chawa chamo perse mra ene tawa ni ne tezun jor se tawa ngen ba ni ne tezun jor se le de tzo tela la ta jur shen among de jong se tawa de tela de pe le de me wa do she ne pe le tawa ngen ba mo ji re se wa可是某的你那个就把是有的了，真的写了写的娘们就是娘兄就是，他们写了没有搞了，你们搞现在他没有的，这种穷都这些，我的说的，第一个用是娘们就是，现在确实是让那些现在娘都这些是吧？一些人到底听娘就是，大家一些是要听一下的话，给说的娘们就。可是某的你那个就吧，没些路因为写了去，这了没问一边拉你的时候，这他，那边那把是个脑子，那把是个那块的，那把是拉我要的时候说，不确实学习的，确定是学习的，那把是个的老师那把是说要嘛是吧？这个所有的这旁边是的，看看没为呢，那把是个脑子，那把是个的呢。老师那把吸收着，那位拉你把这个的时候是吧？我就是，可是拉你的，哪能那位才能，哪能那位才能，那才玩就是，才那个那把是才玩听不着，可有梦的你了个叫吧，等你野生到底面对的，等你学了对吧？见面上。不，学习什么人了？这个就是学习什么人？这个就是学了吧？他什么人呢？现在考试的国家被列这个是的人呢，是他的个天天有个么事就老大家这些我这些我的，个就考试梦的人了，个就是话，天天梦是学的把人学习的把老这个是吧？希望用这个来用是呢。高温就是门板着就是接受送所啥，我记得但是呢，的刘老师别现在的中州的这个人，说别写了没有个了写了凶着，哎，你他们搞学着的提拔呢，提拔老呢，甚至老师连这没有都这样给大家应该也是，这个看见他，哎， Tema se de la nazo so never sing it and never dead chia ganga never shito ya never la ni as red because she do never the GM she me do ganga to pa ya do what the young is da.
Great Indian master Atisha also advised that we should deal with laziness and loving sleep, liking to sleep, and we should really seriously contemplate the certainty of death, and so that could help us to bring this acute awareness of death presence in our life, and then help us to cultivate joy in doing something positive. As Geshe read through the extensive commentary in which they cited a sutra for the exhortation of what we call special willpower, in Tibetan. And so it's all in very poetic expressions. Those who love to be lazy and sleep, then that's how it's very poetically expressed. I can render it here on the spot. So the explanation given is that in that sutra it said, someone or those who love to be lazy and just enjoy sleeping, so basically whatever little bit they know, actually their behaviors is going to add to the ignorance. In other words, you might become more ignorant, if you just love to be lazy and love to sleep. And those who, love to be lazy and, sleep, they become vulnerable to the harms that could be brought upon them by invisible negative beings. If you really generate a lot of positive energy, like that can be like prevent that makes it harder for them to harm you. But if you're lacking merit and positive, then these invisible harmful beings, they find you very vulnerable, so they can easily harm you, right? So that could be a result of being love to be lazy and love to sleep. And someone who loves to be lazy and sleep, your discriminative awareness relating to the Dharma is going to diminish, so your positive, let's say in the beginning, you have some kind of faith in the Dharma, and so now you even lose that, and then you might even develop wrong views, such as like, okay, what's this karma thing is about? Law of karma, what is that? I don't believe in that one. And so if you don't believe in the law of karma, so that means we can feel like I can do anything and I can get away with it, isn't it? But we really can't get away with it. So this is how, we create more problems, when we love to be lazy and love to sleep. So what else? So because like this could be the potential outcomes of, love to be lazy and, sleep. So the idea is that we should really wake up and, develop that acute awareness of the presence of death, because it's always there. And right now we can do something about it. In a sense, we can prepare much better for that eventuality. So seize the opportunity and do that. That's the wise thing. You have fully endowed human form. But if you don't think that way, and we live very carelessly as if that is never going to happen, then we are behaving like, the buffalo example. Yeah.
Oh, the Jesus said, "Near to the love the children, Tata ne, so go on there. Telling you about Shea, Tadum, Rishi Michel, Michel Lu, do Shena, Shaw Masi, nothing ever amazing. Then send you, she send you more. She send you more. Send the ring to me near two new ideas, show Joyous. She said, show the most Mashunki part, this is the Chikara pen gave, Namkar gave, so Savala, New Twiggy, Dad, Joma Shagu, so Shantideva, or that sure, but that shit is cigarette. That humors in Kalikachi or something, and the Shishu do the Namjing email some garage, the Namjing email some good way. Namjing email, because Namjing email, but the better to come. Yeshonda, Tede Kakai, Kebaka Yomara, shares the Namjing email, the Ganga Muslim Chodeza, the Namjing email, and the Shishu, Tadishing Masanshi Mars and the Shadi. At Singapore, some of the attending depend on Tadan journey. It is sure Lamzale, Lalan, that's what you risk. Hotel Yada, Koje, Tiluji, what the Zere do, Shua Meda Sanya Tisha. They are Tata Yid Shua Sanya Jodi, Namjing Emesa, Ni Sanaton Gudua. Never Shua did that, Drobogoshe. That Namjing Emeta Drobogora, but the Low choosing, chasing the Yamar, so goes on the low choosing Kayi, she do what Kayi Jamata, she was Cheo Marwa, says the low choosing that the Namjing maybe using the Karis, low choosing that. And this is song the Jewish to they came a Kakai Yamari, but this was the in the Namjing email some she gave a show did goes on Tomashe. That Namjing email the Suzu Pama Bijado did lotion was the Mawil here do the Mamotongro at the Tongs and Namjing email that goes on Tongoro. She said, gave a show as Namjing email, she son and should Lamzon on the Kora. She should never Lamza Lalenta Tomasho. What is it?
So what we talk about thus far is really need to repeatedly contemplate or reflect on the certainty of death so that we effectively feel the presence of death. Not like intellectually, I know I'm going to die. Right? Don't give me a death, Don't try to smart me out because I know it's going to happen. No, we have to, feel it effectively. So that's why we need to reflect on it over again, But then let's say we have, some good reflection about death, certainty of death. Now still, because we don't know when we're going to die, another form of laziness could kick in. The laziness of procrastination, isn't it? I know, I really convinced myself I'm going to die, right? This, I feel it, But because we don't know when it's going to happen, we thought, not this today, not tomorrow, not day after tomorrow. So then I said, okay, I'll do my practice another day because, So then that laziness of procrastination can again, right, challenge us. So to counteract that, we have to also think repeatedly about the time of death is uncertain, right? It really could happen anytime. It could happen today or this very moment, And so we have to take that into our meditation on death and dying, right? Death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. Now, again, as Geshe said, this also doesn't need to be established or proven through reasoning, isn't it? Everybody knows the time of death is uncertain. And that is no difference of any religious faith, right? We have all seen that death could happen anytime. And really, how should I say, it doesn't matter, rich or poor, because death happens anytime for anyone. It doesn't matter men or women. It happens anytime. It doesn't matter young or old. It can happen anytime. Some die in the womb of the mother. Even they didn't have a chance to come out and being born, isn't it? You have to do the C-section. Geshe didn't say that. That. Some just born and cute baby, well, then you die, And some die as toddlers. Some die as teenagers. Some die as young. And some live very long and then die, And we have seen that. Usually we think that parents are the ones who brought their children into the world. So parents are likely to die first, right? In terms of age, they are getting old, the children. But we have seen too many examples of how the young children die before the parents are still living. So the time of death is so uncertain, right? And so it could happen anytime. And so reflecting on that will help us to develop a sense of urgency. As I have time now, I must do my practice of whatever virtue I want to do now. We have to feel the sense of that. We have to seize the opportunity reflecting on the time, uncertainty of the time of death helps us to immediately go into action and do our practice, not to procrastinate for later time, today, tomorrow, because we don't know there is tomorrow or not, actually, So that's another laziness that could be counteracted through reflecting on the uncertainty of the time of death. And we would like to stop there today, and Geshe, I would love to, welcome your questions. Maybe we'll go first to the Zoom. Preference for the Zoom.
So we have 2 questions online. The first one, can you explain how practitioners of different levels have the ability to control or influence their rebirth in the Bardo state?
Okay. The target on it, I think I should again. Can you share the sugar and king deep test they said Kironasta Yamlemba Yorwage? The Yamlem is also net Damada Yorwage. You're there any Karsoko that Yamle New Dogi Wangi, that Chidugan Rawage, and Chidugal social test the Castle Chiwa there, test Rawan so Marwage, right? The energy pardon never in Nerwage, the Shukin Tetueda, and Dagan Skawachima Delia. Shukin Tete Rawage, but the dear call king test Deshan Aronaso, that Yamle but doesn't want to Rawage. Now that could Chidugalia, that she was the part of that given the Rawage. No.
That's some Jamdo Gangari, Tanda Katamu to Sung to Shigala Dovina in the Jamdo Yahuris.
No, so
here Sinda Yanland, that Michigala, Shira Tingamarva. So the Jamdo, she and the Jamdo Bear, when is in the Diva Jamba, the Java, Shilon, Juva, the Java, she was the Ganga Gordi, the Deshazam was in a Jamdo Konatani, and the Jamdo Sam going to share, in the Karsa, May Jav, shoot Javo, Jav, May Jav, did 10 like his own rumors, so there's some door. So theatre, Shigalan, don't tell it, that she don't get. Till the show me that some good one. Show me that some here, then she may need to go in his usual.
Then again, Chuban Namda, some of the Koran Chiva de Wage. Chuban Namda, Jimmy, that would need the Dhamma in Gurwage.
La
Chuban Namda, that Chuba named Dhamma League Wage. Chuban Namda, that Chivalia Tonglen Chetan Wage. Chivanegal Tonglen Cheta, Pardenegalia Tonglen Chetan Wage. Chivanegal Tonglen Chetan had a discourse again.
I don't know, she thought that Yesha that Kai Toba begins to order. Toba death, you know the car in a show.
Oh, there's Yamlemba, Koran Chiva, the Yamlemba when the Tanakareso, the commission, but the one who she share again. Yamlemba when the Jisum Pendor show again.
No. Yamlem, when she not that is a that. Yamle Joshua, that she was Chivala, Yamle, the Tata, Jamdo, she would say, I did that. Yamle, she got of the day. That the child also usually shall use them, usually to the song of Goshova. This tell a yaga shall use him, shall use him to go, and don't you do well, Lamy Ribas, the song of Goshova. That Jamdo Shadi, Yamle, Joshua, the Kaishana Marina, or this is this is the Chimang and Son Rumors, this song.
This summer again was another Namjikan shit. When I get Yamleba and get Chivenega, so that was a good chirim that Jik Habu again. Chiver, but chirim that dinner against some of the magic, Chiva, the dinner just sooner to pay the other on the church again.
Tai Rabs that another no zone shiver there. In the shiver who says, Sibishin Mount share that day, she goes Gorva, that get that Lela Hill said, that didn't Yalas, that Yakuda Shinata, Kusum Jaguya, children going out. That Timena, any usual chance of going out of what the got social Simpson to Gorva. That Tamatama audition, that shows again, in Chamber in the Shivina. Anything you saw to Mars, Bijaja, Bija, do you think Jag Bijaja or some do what did it? And get the Mashu.
Thank you. Sorry, it took me a little bit to be able to get out thought, but could be helpful response, right? Because Geshe started to go very general, and then which is fine. But you're asking a very particular question, so I thought I have a challenging job just to make sure that we say something towards that. The first thing what Geshe said is, he was talking in terms of sort of the least kind of practitioner, let's say, right, at the time of the death. If you can simply remember the 3 jewels, right, mentally go for refuge in 3 jewels and die, that could have a lot of impact. Your next rebirth could likely to be very positive. If possible, you want to do the whole purification and the visualization. Let's say forget about that, because at the time of death, we don't know what's going to happen. Very momentary. But at least you kind of mentally go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the least practitioner, right? That could, have a positive impact on the next rebirth. Yeah. Now, depending upon the levels of practitioners, right? It depends. Some practitioners, their main practice is to cultivate bodhicitta, or the 3 principles of the path, right? That's what they're going to focus at the time of the death. And some are probably focused only on the wisdom realizing emptiness, and these are quite a little higher level practitioners, and then probably the highest level we think about is those who can take the 3, what we call ordinary states into the 3 enlightened bodies of the kayas, right? In the footnote, the high Shogatantric practice, and how we take the death to realize the Dhammakaya. How do we take the intermediate part of the state to realize Sambhogakaya, complete resource body? How we take the rebirth to realize the Nirmanakaya, right? That's really high-level practitioner, right? They really have control, isn't it? So it depends on the level of practice and practitioners, as you kind of assumed it. But many practitioners who have some idea, they familiarize themselves with the process of death and dying, isn't it? The dissolution process. At the time of the death, how the physical elements will dissolve, your different states of mind will dissolve, and finally everything culminates into the clear light of death. So if you have certain familiarity, then they can kind of do that visualization right now. So when it will actually happen, then they can kind of follow that routine practice. Okay, so hopefully these answers are more satisfying to you, the different levels of practice, right? They can do. Yeah.
Different question.
Yeah.
Does a practitioner have to develop calm abiding and special insight before developing joyous effort?
그래서 우리가 준비 개발하러 와게. 준비. 당한테 준비 퍼진으로 와게. 준비기 야 개발이야 개발도 신에다 활동기 로와게. 똑똑히 그러와서게. No. There's no need. In order to generate enthusiasm or joyful effort, there is no requirement that somebody has to first achieve shamatha, calm abiding, and special insight vipassana. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Could you give her the question? Geshe said that we need enthusiasm or joyful effort to cultivate calm abiding and special insight. We don't need calm abiding and special insight to generate joyful effort.
Hi. For those who have lost the will to live, and death is inviting because it is the end of suffering, where do they find the willpower for their dharmic responsibility? And what is the cure for that level of hopelessness?
Sure. Morang condition this go again. The Mikashi 가서 그러다 뒤로하게 시디가 로아 매버 시도해서 로아게 치면 내가서 거기 로아 매버잖아 로아게 세미나로 로아 가야 매버잖아 로아게 저 딘데게 미디에 인다 간도인 르다는 매버게 다르체네 제 신의 실리게 해봐게 저 로아게 저 딘데게 삼로 요겐 제리야 치면 내가서 로아게 아니 즉 삽삽 체과에다 디심슈디 컨데스키 또 그래서 로아게 체과 다 그거 당고 삼는 다 가르치네 그 디치고 로아게
that namji lamrin the year was Dire tobo namji ji na ne chamro do dire je kono chamro shise Allah mo na so chamro neyo de en chamro do dire no changju sen so dire don ko amjo ho ro wa o dire ko a shi go re so wa 지도 두둥 군게서 이거 시간을 뭐야 지 나야 영어 tamdo shigura chik shigura da chik shigura labda jaya sono jijuda ayara o tishe ni koran pa labda marina ko labda ko kubena sozo dondina ko amja ki dondin kubro o tije kine ne
ide ya ko reward state
o tizo tamdo da samjik sim guna so de e sozo dondina ko amja kubro ko jijuda ro risi
le sangbodin der shede be reward usually says of course one way that is sometimes talked about in the Lamrim stages of path treatises is that at the time of death, of course, the person who's dying, right, couldn't think much or whatever the case may be. In your case, there's somebody who give up, right? There's no hope. But still, those who are around, we can create a supportive environment and we can still kind of recite the refuge prayer lines or whatever. We can still try to maybe it's possible that the person could hear, right? So we don't know. The mind changes at different times. There is a possibility that we might be able to positively influence the mind of a dying person there. Let's say the person couldn't hear at all, but still we feel that the power of the prayer can still impact. Maybe it could activate a good karma of this dying person, and then that might take care of the next rebirth, something like that.
무슨 너지 계속 데려다 두둠 센터 현지도 두둠 센터 기서 어디서 그 전서다 너지 코너 가르치 영양제 시계나 어디 제시야 봐 람나 디고 말아나 소소 봐 이 잠도 시야도 다 정식 생보디 소소 노는 거 아무도 그러 어디 두둠 센터에서는 어디지
Yeah, so in the Tibetan tradition, this is called Thukdam Seldep. Thukdam means the dying person. Whatever is your main practice, right? And those who are around, the kind of helpers, try to remind you, well, this is the time you should focus on your practice, whatever your main practice is, So please try to stay your mind focused on that, right? Don't get distracted. So we try to supplicate the dying person, to do that. So let's say even the dying person is not at a stage can hear it, but then, those who are, helping the dying person can do the main practice of that dying person, right? So through this kind of thing, that might still connect to the dying person, So this is considered very important. Those of Geshe didn't use the word hospice, right? That's what we have today, right? So this is the thing we can do to the dying person, right? Remind him of her of the practice. If this person doesn't know, we know this person's practice, then we can do that for the person. Person can still be influenced, Or at least we can remind the person, please think about something positive, right? Please think about if you have faith in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, think about that, or think about something positive at least, so we can encourage. Yeah.
Somebody who lost the will to live. Did you mean by that person somebody who lost the will to live before they're actually dying? Like a suicidal person, or no? Yeah. So she meant suicidal person.
Okay,
somebody who is lost the will to live before they're at the death.
Well, before the death, right? So what can you do? Obey people.
A young person, healthy person.
Sure, yeah. When this was Mikashe again, that's also Chowale Shiva Kavachigo and Rashi Japan in the Yorwa. Chowale Shiva Dampachin in the Yorwa again. That's what means me better because the Yimu again. That is Chivinega Marda in the Koran, some Nalia, that's the NHS came in the Shishana Yasa Jorwaga. In there, Samro Yugan Deliada, Karsa or Samro Jujeta, the Karshe or Sorwagan. Delia Samro Jujeta, that was good the sheer Jorwagan. Ranshi Yamna Yasa that the guys did there in the Chomasai Jorwagan. In there, Gita, Kangema Muduagan, or Delia loves it, which is that.
This is your dog on the Ranshi Jangi, Zuga.
Long.
But so this is that she was gosh and that shit and Cardo. Give to Dosa, this some of them dira. She did that go there, did she had to say to see a Yomara, 2 minutes a Yomara. She the shin Goya may with the places some of the that shit that did she will begin to shake it to you that did she was say. She said that she imagine any 기본 동학들 상호를 거야 요말와 이메다 신의 가르치자지 노라 가제도 어디 딱 되시나 이 신의 가야 되지 거 차고 말와 다신 기본이 거라 통고였는데 신의 시야 가지로
in the day, China meet the again, sure, some major than even that they love the Gaja. Then another which even that church, she's on a Jura and they do the task, you are going on or did a manga to Lasa again. China meet a Jimina, could learn on the Rova, or the Niason of this, calling is over Yomar care. They love Garis current.
That has in some even did that love that do come over that you love the Jana Shira Maona. We didn't do some good chill, can say mother search that the Dugator did do dash in the Gasari Sarashira. But love the Jana Shin in the car, Dosado Kajate, some of the Cocato or that change to you mean that Jira love the Jaka.
The challenge is, of course, Geshe always assumes that the dying person has certain knowledge, so we can remind them something. I said, what about just a regular person, right, who has no Dharma knowledge, interest even, right? So, but who thinks it's better to commit suicide than I live, how can we encourage, right? Yeah, depressed or whatever. So Geshe, but his still response is really coming from one perspective particular. I try to encourage him to give something. I'm not getting that response. So but Geshe says that, the person who's kind of depressed, make such a rush decision, feels that whatever challenges he or she is facing in this life seems to be so overwhelming. They think that dying is a better option. But we can tell, that is not the end of storyline, everything. You could face much greater difficulties, right, in the next life. But I said, that's based on somebody who is interested in that, right? But I said, so this could help. But if somebody has no such interest, anything, then it's really difficult, right? I don't know how to encourage, right, a person to think, about something like that. Yeah, so that's what I get, Yeah. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah.
I think that's...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that answers actually. That's
right.
That's
okay.
really the perfect answer
good,
to that
okay.
question. Yeah.
Good.
You tell them the truth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Last week, Geshe said that laziness is related to ignorance.
Yes.
I think I've read somewhere that self-cherishing is the function of self-cherishing is to for us to try to avoid any kinds of problems or challenges, in immediate challenges, such as, for example, the effort to practice and all that. So in that sense, self-cherishing would be more directly to laziness.
Oh, sure.
Wouldn't that be the case?
Yeah. Lelogi that also Lerosan Kasmunji Cherwage, Lelo di Daka Timug Chardola Rawage, Chidu Kanlia, the Sonsons are Rawage. Now, some 70 Kodaji 7 on the Jinjin or Rawage, Jinjin, Lelo Changame, the Jinjin Shivu, you Kanlia, and then called social Jewish Shivu, you ever saw and been a church you do Kanga or Rawage, Nubudimura. A Jinjin died then in Jagma City Lab, the question of Jinjin and Timule, changing Lelo de Roage, Geshe Manga Chingmero, so didn't even changing Lelo give it to all again.
The Jinjing Lelo Cashoy, that's the Jesus also of a devil, the Felicia, some of this, you saw so.
In the changing there could do not Matimu del Matu de Roge. Changing the Mama Toshana, Timu del Matu de Roge. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that self-cherishing could also give rise to laziness. That's what you're saying, hey, it's better to enjoy your life, while you have to be this practicing requires a lot of discipline and That's possible, But then when we ultimately kind of go much deeper down, even the self-cherishing is related to the ignorance, right? So kind of grounded right there, Yeah.
Self-cherishing is actually a kind of ignorance, isn't it?
Changing the again or the Mariba Kunto Shagor again. Changing the Mariba the Shagore, Mariba the changing Kagara again.
Mariba Jinikare. Mariba only changing your words. The Queen Yamdo.
Yeah, we consider the self-cherishing, changing, and ignorance as two different things, but they're very closely related. whenever we have ignorance, I think it's likely that self-cherishing is there, Yeah.
There almost you were there. Tombogas da şimdi daha dişe charge said o dike jara. Tombogas dişe yine dişe var.
Yeah. In the great Acharya Chandrakirti, in his supplement to the Middle Way, right? There's one passage says, first there arises the conception of I, then the mind, isn't it? So first there arises the grasping at self, and then, it arises that cherishing towards everything is mine, So the grasping gives rise to the self-cherishing. They always come together. Yes.
Someone made a comment online about the suicidal person question.
Sure.
I have sometimes found it beneficial to remind a suicidal person that death is not the end. It's a very difficult process in which they must be repeatedly reminded. But I have seen cases where the person is motivated to practice rather than give up, or at least they don't commit suicide, knowing that it will not end suffering.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Right, that exactly, yeah. I think like king sumba de chibare chata pigi kasa samju share wa ke chwa re min do chaje thol ya mi din de ta rang si jap gon din de samlu yi dan che che yo wa ke ko so la shi so na kang kang se ke yo ma re so wa ke chona ya ge se yang jo kon so le chen se tan de bi na wa ke an kon so che dan din de ya de to na le ge do so do wa ke ya bo wa ke yes go ahead.
And Geshe, comment on extreme cases where we're so overwhelmed and depressed and all we want to do is just practice and thereby neglecting all the other responsibilities that we have in this life. Is there a danger of going to the other extreme?
How? You mean? I think I must have missed something there, what you said. So could you restate your question or thing? Yeah.
So if we're overly focused on death and dying,
yes.
Is there a danger that we neglect living?
Oh, okay, sure. Oh, that's good. Yes. The condition is okay. Another day, and Chiwa Mitaba call ya so mix card the or again. Chiwa Mitas and the Comgre and the church the legal level again. Yan did the Chiwa Mitashita some Tana again. Say yan the Casore, some of the Shupa Chetana again. Kasho, so Choya or again. Choya ya Toname and the check my vessel again. That me in that again. That she wanted some summer again. That did she would did the cash on the again. That Choya didn't yangas game the Choya Toname your child.
Tada Chia Medal Sana, Tada Choya, this you marry. Shuksha to marry. Quata Shia, we touch you, that might you tell you the some of the today.
No, sir.
Show me that something Choya sing you the Chamari.
No, sir. Geshe feels that actually if we do sort of properly this reflection on the death, that should actually help us to live properly, living. Because you say, what can I do to live little, healthy a longer time so that I can do more practice, right? Rather than kind of if you lose interest in living. So he thinks that if we do proper reflection on the death, which is eventuality, it doesn't mean we're going to die sooner if we think that way, but it actually could help us to live more properly, that we appreciate living, more, he thinks, right? So he doesn't see the danger in the other side, yeah.
But Nazar do that is Salvashi was in the true danger of Salvashi Ashagurama. You shall without saying the Leo that he told Tawashel Rugro. Tawashel is in the enemy of the Sour to Sugro.
Right. So the example Geshe gives is if a doctor says, hey, you're kind of here borderline, you have to take good care of your health, otherwise this can, right, bring a big health issue. Now this person becomes much more, right, aware and do everything to prevent that health problem arising. So like that, you say, the death's going to happen, eventually. So if you don't prepare from now, it's much more difficult. So then you appreciate more the preciousness of your life, the opportunities you have right now. You even wish that what can I do to live even one day longer, so to speak, so that I can do my, practice. Yeah.
But related to that, what Geshe said, proper meditation on death, what's the proper meditation? I mean, if one reflects on that, it seems to me that it's almost inevitable that one will develop basically a paralyzing fear, completely paralyzed. Okay. So not only they're not going to be able to practice, but they're not going to be able to function in daily life. So maybe that's not proper meditation, or maybe eventually they will overcome it. But this is what the result of that meditation will be.
Quran can show this again. That the chiwa mata ko ya shi go GSTDL that chiwa mata the chiwa le shena landing is again. That she so not any dinner dross to go to much mindo da sa maja la again. And this shena the shuk chen mi ka shi gen shena ngang bra gi wall ya teni nyamne ka chen the chag do again. Or dinde chasing mar da tan nga jo chiwa mata ko me di thong da mar wa in the jingna de be chele ge ba chen ro again. Mi be the ka zo go the hen so the chen chen ro again. Nyamne chen do dinde chang mar ba so again. Chiwa mata kom da 딱다로 지금 이러고 사지 신하계에 신하 체를 버리게.
됐어요, 그래서 걔들 저기는 될 미가 시고 걔들 될 미가 다시 펜슬라로 세다다 시와들 비가 패야 좀 타피에 좀 다야로다. 다 타피면은 저 신하지나 패야요 말아. 신하시야요 말아. 거야 타피 패야 되어라. 패야 되고 타기다. 신하비게 시무고 쇼도 신나 이네 시와 신나라고 저시만 인소모지 저 상로상주하고 디레야 상고거나 에니고 신하시 때문에 시와 메다 권의 준리고 또 비게는 디기 대체 신하디 가르치는 양 고직만 냄새를 쓰고 신하 지고다 탑예자미 신하 지고에는 너야미 평야요 말아 저도 거서도 탑예 동안 들어야 well,
Geshe says is that the reason why we discuss extensively and we reflect on death and dying is sort of more from optimistic point of view. There's something you can do better, right? Instead of ignoring it and then you just plunge into it, like then you're like, ooh, what happened to me, right? He said because we said. Just like Shantideva says in his guide, if something can be done, why worry, right? If nothing can be done, what's the point of worrying? Because the Dharma is like a solution to that, right? Handling the death process, isn't it? So if there's no solution, then you're right. And we don't want to think about it. It's going to paralyze us. And we said it makes more hopeless, isn't it? But we are saying that there is antidote to this so that you will be much better prepared, right? If you think in the way. So that the positive energies or the practice you do is supposed to be counterbalancing the sense of fear, right? So that it doesn't get out of proportion, things like that. Good to give,
Well, to fear death or to fear anything, I heard that it's from not knowing. So the more you know and study and are familiar with death, the less you would fear it because you're prepared for it in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why we are studying death,
right?
To be prepared.
Yeah.
So it doesn't paralyze us when it comes.
Sure. Yeah.
We already know ahead of time.
Quran like this go again. Namjung amzo shena manggo shibichi maribe wangu yungo rowas roage. Machine roage. Ta chiwa de ko ne je ha ko bache. 제베네 고시나 코라스는 충분히 그래서 그러게. 딱고 데게 지카리 상모당다 랍게 그러게. 다 하마고네 소송 보제 시스나 아니 감달리게 그러와서. 때 상모당다 다가 데게 그러게.
그래. 신하시로.
벌써 그다음에 집에 걸레베 미좀 가에 마셔나 다 몽베 왕게 아니 시도가 시고 그러와서. 나 집에 내다 하고 데리 아직 상모당다 제베나 신나 코라스는 충분히 그래서. Yeah, he agrees with your reflection. Yeah.
Do we have time for 2 more questions online?
Yes. Let's see how the questions are. If they're short one, why not?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's try first. Yeah.
Let's try.
Yeah.
The first one continues this topic. He asks, if we do many practices, how do we know which one to do at the time of death?
That's a good one. Yes, I want to know the answer. Can that touch it and the condition is Rawage. Namju so Yamlen, Dama the Mango Chigu in us, Rawage. She will never still check where the Yamlen, the Kurdish Gores, and Yamlen Mango Chigo or Dama the Rawage. She did all Panther in Yamlen, the Kandis Dam Google, so the culture.
I think it did that. No, Moshu Lela, the jump to the Lela Hide.
No. That's also new Baltan Cheshire, Rawage.
That meant and some Gomia Yorida until I said any Kusum Lamia Gomiata and Tordura. The Moshu did that, chasing in the jump to the Matadora.
No.
The jump to the jump to Chatan in the detail jump, there was any Karisa, Sino Juice, Gaga Salomazona, jump to Children started in the Chata Shikimarani.
No.
In Hibina, in a Yeson room is taking a Katam Lamas, Mijag, Jag, Mijak, and University of this day.
Chitana again, she took on Yamna Karisha and Kibaya Marapan. Yamna Dama Mango Chigi in a Yamna Karisha and Ronduski Marapan to grow up.
Tata the chapters said that Lela Europe did that.
Yeah, no. Now, Geshe says that, as he discussed before, depending upon the level of a practitioner's practice, right? The minimum as we the practitioner, right? The easiest one, so to speak, that we can do is to go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? I mean, if possible, we want to do that whole elaborate visualization, the purification, the blessing, and the radiation, and all of that. But that's too much of that. Let's say, at least you're trying to think about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and even you finish that, you die. I mean, you are likely to have a good rebirth. Kadamba Lama's Geshe say that if you die thinking about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, even if 100 people want to throw you into the hell, they cannot do that, But then, in general, it doesn't matter. If you're doing any kind of practice, right, good, it's just fine at the time of death, right? It depends on one's own ability, right? What is your main practice? What do you think, you find more effective? You can go with that, or any practice is fine, actually, at the end of the day. The next question, the last one.
So this is a very general question.
Sure.
What was Shantideva like as a student?
Okay, sure. This is what again, Geshe Shivala Roage. Geshe Shivala Gida, music or sugar Roage. Geshe Shivala di Loma imbe kala kandere shores, that Loma Sidige. Geshe Shivala, Kidu imbe kabla Roage. Geshe Shivala, the Loma kandere shores, Loma that, another reason, Sheram Nobu Chiore, Nyopto Chiore, Chiora.
Shivala Koronsigo.
Shivala Koran Luki.
Shivala Koron, that she will keep a she will get out and get out.
Mathematics Chandu Loma in the Kala, that Kidu in the Kala, Kidu and China, Kidu.
Ale, Giru there.
Chevakala.
Corn said the day sugar, the Koron, that shows sugar, my corn, Mahonyam, sugar,
Mamma, the Shivala Tangumene Chandu again, that Kidu Roage, Kige Marawa, Kidu even Nakabla Kandesh or Res and Mitamas on the Kanga.
That you really make up some this was the Tavata Naleta, like any rat show or show to Dana, that Tavata Kachin with the puzzle, like the Yamle Shiggy was sort of said, not so that the Kusulam yet was there, Yamasha, and Musicanga where Duje Sumbas, the court where Chavez, the chair, anyway, Sidum was the Langdor Chai Shigman to say. Did a cut on your shoulder?
No.
But they said the dog that was says that never shall think said they were.
No, sir.
And the concern the social daughter don't do the remove the call those.
No, sir.
And the guy she don't remove the Korea, that quite surely a good answer.
No, sir.
I think as I know. Geshe Shivala be Geshe was job. That's a mission around Shaw. The Pesha, she is the dishing or cut on him away.
No, sir.
And Chitamo the Guardian child did chase the Chitamo the Kozo Kadesh Rahamo, Kadesh Yalan, Chitama name, my mother said, she can show you. Fully show this. And don't know you don't Shemba Sava don't
No, sir.
so
No.
And it was $7 Larry. $7 in the Joyous song. And Joyous song is a Nangal penny. And the Tabama with Jaya didn't Jabea show there did it Tabama yours. And Joyous song is a Nangaya penny. Joyous Yungzo song side and Tenebe Nangalia penny lard. But the lad, anything. Conto de Dam Sumto Negatia till Sendito Shensen in the you over the Kasha was the Sendison in Sendito there, Madu is Maju Shen, Kasha did Manga energy, you over the young Senditi Madu Shundoa.
No, so.
Madima Shunza. They told you to that. This is in the Shala, the Koronda, social Lumba did those who I'm so who is around. But the Lumba del any yellow song top of ye dance.
No, so.
And the songs like this, and the shooting cars that you are shable till Kuni Jedua.
No, so.
Jed is the little Tanda didn't teach your Karsa. Sheralu Tiwaji and the Chuba Divada and Tizota 6 years ago.
No, so.
And the country, what he did, and you do the love this idea. And the Koran Namju Nanata Shuzo Simjunga in the Shami sing the say special.
No, so.
But it lands. The coin this long to get not. They say, into perils, you the period the petty window. Because the long shadow now coin they say, into Tonda.
No, so.
What they done, then coin didn't see you that long the Sheba. Teneba only shadow to the Juju machine gave what she was shown. George that Jaga and George Jazzy or Jojo.
No, so.
What the Tagesha was what they said. The two on him with the she or the just was and shot on at the shower.
No, so. Okay, so let's say, of course, we don't know. I mean, we don't know much about his early life as a teenager or something like that. But we know something about his life once he was studying at Nalanda Monastic University. Yeah, he was such a hidden kind of a yogi, and people thought like he really didn't know anything at all, right? Even there were a lot of, not everybody loves you, right? So there are many, who think that he's kind of like a disgrace to the monastic university. They criticize him. So they nicknamed him as, the one who knows three things. Okay, the knower of the three things, meaning he know like eating, sleeping, and, defecating, right? Or shitting, that's it, right? Sorry to say that straight. It sounds like rhyme together, eating, sleeping, and shitting, right? Then he said, that's what he knows. Yeah, so that means he was such a hidden kind of yogi, right? He didn't show. Actually, he was practicing very high-level practice and always in this, more in the meditation of clear light. He was practicing Tantra so secretly, and so everybody thought he was just sleeping and doing nothing good for. So some of these critics, they designed they conspired together to find a way to embarrass him, and hopefully then he will be embarrassed and he will leave the university, right? So at the Nalanda Monastic University, the monk scholars have taken a turn to be able to do some discourses. So they said, okay, let's, make him give a discourse one day. Then he has nothing to teach because they said he knows nothing. He's a stupid, at least they said. So he will embarrass himself and he will check out. So then one day for the turn for the Shantideva to teach, so they purposely erected a very high throne just to embarrass him, right? And make him to sit. But nobody knew that day he came and how he climbed up. He just ended up sitting on this high throne. And then he asked them, do you want me to teach you something that has already been taught before, or you want me to teach something new? Everybody said, okay, teach something new. Yeah. And so this is where this guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, right, this Chemchatter text, right, it originated. So he started to give this amazing teaching. And so as he was teaching this, at a certain point of time, he started to levitate himself into the space. And then he slowly, he disappeared completely into space. And only those monk scholars who have this power of what we call hearing, we call it the special ability to listen to teaching at far off distances, they could hear everything, you know. So there were many monk scholars, they were writing down the whole notes of his teaching. And so they have a disagreement. Scholars from the central India, they said, well, I think these many chapters are there in his teaching. Then scholars from Kashmir, we call Kashmiri scholars, actually they have more. They said, no, I think this is what he taught. So that they couldn't resolve the differences, right, of the how many chapters this constitute. And so then they heard that Shantideva somehow, you know, went to South India. So then they send 2 monk scholars who have the ability to retain teaching, right? They're just like what we call Sungwajito, means whatever you listen, they have a photographic memory. They can remember everything. They don't have to take any note. So they send 2 monk representatives to South India, said, go and verify, you know, how many chapters, you know, that teaching, and then remember everything, bring back. So the 2 monks went there and they found him near a stupa in South India. So they said, we came here for this reason. We have differences. Kashmiri said, you have 4 chapters, and the central India scholar said, you have this many. So which is the right one? So then Shantideva actually gave them the whole oral transmission of the teaching again. And somewhere in this text, he mentioned about another text called Shiksha Samukchaya, Competitive Bodhisattva Training. He said, you mentioned that. Where is that? Nobody has heard about it. He said, well, I put all my drafts like at somewhere in the roof of my monk cell back in the monastery Nalanda, so you can find it there. So that's why they went back and then they verified. So these are 10 chapters, you know. So Shantideva, when he was you know, studying at the Nalanda Monastery University, many people thought he was just kind of you know, stupid, you know, and he was just, you know, not part of the scholars, but this is the amazing teaching he gave. And then he left the Nalanda University and he went to South India. Yeah, so that's what Geshe wants to share the story. Okay, so with that, we will conclude our teaching today as talking about death and impermanence. So we thought, you know, here's one good example of many of us know this person and who's no more with us. So I've been asked to make this announcement that David Bellows, right? Many of us remember he was one of the long-term students of Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen, who already passed away. So his 49th day puja is on October 30th, 30, Monday. And his wife, who still lives in India, requested for the puja, and it will be 9 a.m. Okay, morning, the puja on Monday, October 30th, because it's going to be Zoom and because it's time in India where she, right? That's, I think, the reason. And so those who know him and if are able to come participate, you're welcome to the puja. If not, at least, right, you say your prayers. And so this reminds us about our own inevitability here, you know. David Bellows Cotton, the one. Cotton is she could the 30 sumju ni cake the wagon. The Odigi Serachero Chesa wagon, Shoget the torch people was a work. As correct, I made the Kaga is a Shoget and we get other contact again. This was not so. So this is just announcement, and so let us let me see, do our usual long life prayers and dedication prayers. We're on page 3. Lord Jiangzi Yudong Garden Gedang Gongwei Jidong Menba Xian Denba Jinla Wangdo Jishu Changnian Shugun Jela Sowa De page 5. Mawa Dame Kunjian Donga De Kangli Zhongso Ninda Senze Zhanggun Jiawa Niwa Yapse Zhangzong Tenzin Mawe Shiwa Tenzin Jewe Jingguang Zebe Jin Xie Jie Likun Changzhuo Tendu
龙道藏居北北北岳间，对家家之本道下人，天上公道七子总北子，永作有力不被压给。龙瑞世间人别白点不，土点康里大不下人。罗那红门热波南大贵，典当中越偏的中越。尊着居民西北偏来节，改善对节人道下人。其实老门都节门浪的，改善对节电浪上面。朝中多多几多。其他门北人归人着手 page 9。Ramjan Shinge Gombo Seba Zodo Namje Geyon Drama Chozo Zeye Lazo Tamje Tade Mishe Shoge Mojo Tobden Cheda Losan Jawe Den Shiro Tenban Zembe Beyu Tade Deja Kyongge Shinye Jo Yangre Ninje Hongbo Sowa Jiden Songwe Chana Beme Tenbe Azawa Soso Tawa Namda Chudin Yangda Lemba Ye Losan Jimbe Dejo Gyaltsen Longzi Yangbe Xin Samjo Namje Tangzin Jebe Gomjo Xila Songjo Jebe Den Tenbe Mata Chenbo Shab Chebe Dongma Bowa Bojo De Jebe Lilan Siyu Bomja Jebe Denden Lexe Tangja Jo Hiro Xinyin Shenbo Shabde Kebe Lando Wuxi Zeda Je Jebe Chara Niezo Da Sangbe Deja Kyongke Yixie Nong Sonde Xinyin Shenbo Shabde Tesang Rola Jabe Tende Je Menjo Tangzhe Zangme Seje Labchen Zedin Tende Peshabe Tende Xinyin Shenbo Shabde 周庄教我世界勤劳的，头天当真送门听。大家拉上大白天白多，西藏门白等，人多说强着心着人不接，马也把那也有接，接我娘。公年工作别我说，冬年到我人不接，马也把那也有。接我娘把没把养，公年工别我说，啥些别接，如今没到账，日拉那些你的眼巴，上街寻找你的为我。如果难道行了，这个说抗日rabe或者新港州平常在我马路中边，现在是往天津亚洲，下边谁的报道，天桥街一档古肉热闹满街了，你要大要没被特定。要我滚到阳大浪漫的人们去见白了龙之节，萨达浪节原点入座，逻辑强给过把牛都手。